Welcome to NFT Sundays, a weekly conversation around art and technology, brought to you by DMINTI and the Museum of Crypto Art. Okay, everybody, welcome back to the next installment of NFT Sundays. I am Colborn Bell with the Museum of Crypto Art, and I am here with the iconic, the legendary master of all things, Conlan Rios of ASYNC Art. Thank you for being with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. And shout out to DMINTI, who has brought us here together on this interview and podcast. So, Conlan, I would just like to leave it to you, perhaps, to introduce yourself, what you work on, and how it all ties into your love for NFTs.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm Conlan, founder and CEO of ASYNC Art. For those that are maybe newer to this, ASYNC Art is a creation platform for making programmable, interactive, generative art and music. We started a little bit more than 2 years ago. So February 2020 was when we launched. And the biggest distinction between us and the other platforms is that, all the art in our platform is dynamic or interactive in some way. As opposed to just static NFTs, these are NFTs that, either will change with time. People can own aspects of an NFT. Like imagine owning a layer of your favorite artwork and being able to manipulate the master through it. And that's where we're at.
Oh, I have to say that when I started, I guess, collecting artwork in February of 2022 or 2020 as well. And when somebody asked me to look at async, this was just mind blowing stuff, right? This is next level. This is incredibly already crypto art as NFTs is very difficult for people to understand and conceptualize. Async has always been that next level, and I think perhaps a final frontier of something exceptional. I mean, where did this idea come to you as to how and why this should exist?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So I've been in crypto, my background's in mobile and game development. So I've been doing that in Silicon Valley for the past, 15 years or so. But cryptocurrency has always been a sidetrack. Initially with DeFi, I was initially building some things in the DeFi space and meeting, companies and groups there. But started collecting NFTs in about 2018, and then 2019 started getting into it heavy. Kind of got into this cool cycle where I was discovering the space, buying NFTs, then being well, where do I display these? And so I started buying Metaverse land, building these galleries, displaying the NFTs, and then just kind of going back and forth, fill up a gallery, all right, buy more NFTs, buy a new gallery, and just kind of rinse and repeat. Got really into it, got to the point where I had 1,000 NFTs probably. And as much as I love all the pieces that I have, I did feel okay, all of these NFTs, they're art that could have existed 20 years ago, on Instagram or Dribble or Behance. And they're using NFTs to monetize, which is great for the creator, great for the collector. But it wasn't 21st century yet. I love cyberpunk, I love weird. And I was this art's static. And being a game developer, I was what can we bring in for the viewer who's essentially the player, the participant in this. So I had this concept around what if I could reach inside a digital painting and own part of the painting. So I started drafting up this idea around this fantasy role-playing piece where kind of like Lord of the Rings, where you'd have a bunch of characters around a campfire, and maybe I own the Dwarven Barbarian, you might own the Elven Archer, and we customize our characters and kind of emote or change poses or do stuff and kind of collaborate and have fun. But I'm not an artist. And I was this is going to come out terrible if I do it. Maybe I can commission someone to do the artwork. But then I realized at the time I was collecting art from 100 artists in the space. I was hosting these art club meetups in my Metaverse galleries every month. And I was let me just build something for them to come in and they could do the artwork. And so the first piece that was the genesis piece of ASYNC Art was called The First Supper. And 13 artists came together. They all contributed a layered character of a character at a dinner table, which is a remix of Da Vinci's Last Supper. And it was, it was the first piece where you could actually own a layer of the piece as opposed to only the static render. And the idea is that once you own a layer, you could manipulate the master image through like certain abilities given to you by the artist, like state change or positional change.
Can we do something fun and just try and shout out all 13 of those artists? Look,
Yeah,
I
so,
got at least like Matt Kane,
yeah,
Malibty.
MLT.
Yeah, we've got Josie. We've got
Yep,
Black Box
yep,
dot art Sparrow. We've got Connie Digital.
yep. Got shortcut.
Shortcut, good one.
Yep. Twisted Vacancy.
Twisted Vacancies in there.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Oh gosh, we're 6 short. That feels impossible.
Oh, there's some big ones there. X copy.
Oh, yeah.
Hackatow. Coldy.
Hackatow, Coldy.
The late A Lot of Money.
Yeah.
Rutger Vandertas.
Rutger, amazing. So
And Van Design.
And Van's Design. All to say, like, if you need like original names of people who really poured their heart and soul and represented the space in the right way, go check out that piece, those 13 artists.
Yeah, I'm obviously a bit biased, but I think it's definitely like the top 3 or 5 most important crypto art pieces I think so far, because like it's representative of like the time, like the space of the time. Like it was so I mean, it is collaborative now in new ways, but like at the time it was so underground. It was just like Twitter and people just chatting.
Man, number one. It's number one because it represents, I think, because it represents like the birth, the emergence of what was and is still the center of the space, right? The ability to collaborate across artists. It's not like one artist working for themselves. It's everybody together at the table. It was this group of artists driving things forward. And that was the original vision. And like I was just speaking earlier with somebody, it's like the artists taught me what it should be. You know, my response to do the project that I did was in response to their vision, their values for what this should be. And we've seen it change.
Yeah. The artists are really driving it. And, you know, I think we come in for a little bit and then they surprise all of us like, oh, wow, this is deeper than I thought it could go.
Yeah. And Metakovan owns that piece.
Yeah, and I've heard that was the auction around that. Like he didn't have his brand yet as Metacoven. He was like this, like he'd been buying up something. He bought up some like land in some of the metaverses, but like I've heard that auction is what inspired his like his drive to have like this entity and a character. And he went on to do the Beeple sale, which blew up crypto art. So yeah, that piece was definitely like a spawn of like a lot of different threads.
And interesting fact is that Connie Digital still owns his layer.
Yes, he was the only artist who didn't sell it. And yeah, I mean, so Connie's really cool. He's the first crypto artist I ever interacted with. Initially on Twitter, we did a collaboration where I did some development work for him. Like I built a Twitter bot for him, and he paid me in NFTs. So he gave me 2 of his pieces for it.
Cool.
It just all around super cool guy. His galleries and crypto voxels were what inspired me to dive deeper into CV, because I initially bought like one parcel and like I kind of like slept on it. I was like, all right, this world's kind of gray and white and bland and like I don't see much. And then his gallery had like brick wall textures and like it didn't look like a CV build. It looked like an actual like alleyway. It was super cool. And he's big on Scent at the time. Scent was like where a lot of activity was going on. So yeah, Connie pulled me into NFTs really and CV.
I think you are one of many people that would give Connie his flowers for that. Like,
yeah.
And
social currency, Hue before a roll.
First one. Yeah, man, the days. I don't want to reminisce too much because I think a lot of the context will be lost. But maybe we can just perhaps like compare and contrast it to how do you feel about the current state of the market?
Yeah, I was just talking to someone. Well, I mean, I talk about it every week, but like talking with someone yesterday, you know, it's bigger for sure. I think it's bigger and it came here faster than any of us could have expected. Like we were all thinking, oh, like in 10 years, maybe people will be like talking about this stuff. And like, holy shit, like already a year later, like everyone knows what an NFT is, at least. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's sick of it, mainstream sick of it, but it's here. I'd say it's good. It's gone mainstream. But I think, at least for me personally, it kind of reminded me like of why I was drawn to it in the first place. Like, because I liked NFTs of like the underground aspect of it, and the fact that it was kind of cool and edgy, and that it was holistic. Like everyone was like, altruistic. I mean, like people were just like giving away NFTs at the time. You know, people were just like being really friendly. And now that NFTs are mainstream, I definitely like I feel a little bit of jadedness. Like like, this is kind of why like I wanted to be to have something new, but it's inevitable. If it's such a cool movement and it's where art has to go, then you know it's inevitable. I guess I would have liked a little bit more time before I got here.
I think we all would have. Like what I've come to tell people recently is that like NFTs are dead, but crypto art will live forever, right? So
Yeah.
the idea that I think just like NFT, the word is just decidedly uncool at this point. You know, it has become so blown out of the water, but that spirit for the crypto artist as the hacker looking for something new, looking for that Trojan horse to like move and change the way people think and the way people see is very much alive. And I think like as the outside gets wider and wider, still there is this core of people, certainly obviously people like yourself, that like hold the center of what this is and should be, and will continue to try and like transmute the purest form of the vision and values out to others.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds right. It's yeah, I think we're also like in one of those building phases because like you know like when the iPhone first came out, it was a big shockwave. And then there's just a couple of years where like people were just like getting iPhones. Like people were just like buying iPhones. They were switching out of their existing plans. And then there was like a lull of it. And then eventually another explosion of like new apps like Lyft and Uber and like, you know, ride sharing and stuff. And those are apps that couldn't have existed unless you had millions of people already with that device in their
True.
hand.
Yeah.
And so now we're like in that phase now. We're like, okay, artists every day are trying NFTs, they're learning about it, they're talking about it in spaces and clubhouses, et cetera. Big companies like Behance and Figma and DeviantArt, and everyone's like dumping in. And like, okay, it's going to be kind of like, it's noisy, but at the same time, it's kind of quiet. Just kind of like, all right. And then who knows, a year from now, whatever, something big happens, then we have another explosion. Technically, it's not noisy now. It's not quiet now. It's noisy, but it's kind of quiet compared to other periods.
I like very much agree with that. Like we are perhaps like minting the smallest possible Lego blocks, right?
Yeah.
And like that JPEG attached to that token, you know, like Lego blocks of the metaverse, which is, you know, some dream tech space that really doesn't exist. And we like glimpsed in crypto voxels, and we kind of like can glimpse in Decentraland Somnium space. And
yeah.
Why don't I just ask more of like, what are the like philosophical implementations? What do you want to see in the metaverse? What is a metaverse for you?
Yeah. I mean, I'll say one thing. I do want to visit the metaverse more often again. Like back in 2019 and early 2020, the space was small enough that like when someone held an event in CryptoVoxels, it would be like everyone in NFT land would like go there and hang out there like that weekend. And maybe it was because of COVID, but like I think it was also just the space. And nowadays, like the past 6 months, I haven't really been in the metaverse. I've been busy, but also it just hasn't really pulled me in. So I'm hoping that this year and the next, like we get back to that because like that's a lot of fun. I don't have time to game, but I would love if I spent like some percentage of my day and week in the metaverse. Like we need to get off Discord and Twitter. Like that, like metaverse needs to be like one of those spaces.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
I think it's promising though. There's a couple new platforms that are coming out or that are already out, like Mona Gallery, On Cyber,
Yep.
and they're kind of like these hybrid approaches. So they're not like full on block by block building like CryptoVoxels, and they're also not super high polished the way that Decentraland is. But they're like in the middle where like 3D builders who work with like Unity can just like tokenize their Unity projects and like plug and play. So I'm hoping that's like that middle ground where like it's high fidelity enough, but like more performant than CryptoVoxels, which is still a little bit broken in some ways.
Yep.
And hopefully those spaces start to like propagate out, and maybe we'll be having interactions like this in the metaverse, like in some of those worlds.
I mean, I love that idea. I think because land is no longer cheap, right? So you cannot invite the tinkerers into these places like you used to. So now people have decided to build companies that, again, like give free tools back to the creators to explore and develop and implement their own spaces. And I've always said, like, the end goal for metaverse land is to be as ubiquitous as a web page, right?
Yeah, exactly.
People will drive down like the cost of acquisition so that it is not limited. Like the digital land in the metaverse is not a scarce asset. So why are we kind of like bringing artificial scarcity to that?
Yeah. I think it's tough because like I know CV originally had like this thing around CryptoVoxels had like scarcity and origin city. There's only going to be like a finite number of parcels, and they pivoted. So now it's like okay, there's just now islands being minted, and it did make it more accessible, which is one thing. But like it kind of took the incentive out of like I remember like I was like a basically a developer. I was like strategically buying land. I was looking for good
Mm,
architects to like hire and develop, and I was doing that
mm,
in part because like I will make a profit at some point by investing and building a really cool district. And now like I haven't done that because it's kind of lost now. I'm like, oh, now people anyone can get land, so I can buy land whenever I need. I don't need to like develop this one area. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, it's hard to strike that balance because like you want to have people. You don't want to bring artificial scarcity in for the sake of scarcity, but you want to have some incentive for like people with capital to come in and like and really invest their time and effort to get quality experiences built. It's a tricky challenge.
I always go back to again like a lot of money was like such a big reason for me. The Vauxhall
Yeah.
Hotel, like the creativity of this was just like
Yeah.
it gives me shivers. And to think of like the parties that they threw and the art that they installed and like everybody together in that space might have been 50, 100 people. Um,
Yeah.
I
I mean,
miss that a
those
lot
those
too.
are epic.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, yeah, like, and I remember Maker's Place when they built their headquarters. They were doing like meet and greets with artists sometimes. Known Origin
yep.
did a couple like private auctions in there. Yeah, those were really fun, and they were high quality builders, high quality sponsors, and yeah, I remember those. I remember almost all those events.
Yeah. And then, Decentraland got wind and they started opening up and like building galleries for people. And then we kind of like experimented there. Yeah. The whole thing was very, very crazy. So, but what is it that, let me try and frame the question right. Like, what
Mm,
were you trying to achieve? Because again, one, you have like incredible
mm,
taste. You're just like a natural developer and you're
mm.
like a community figurehead. So like, what were you trying to achieve in like beginning to, because I know
Sure.
what I was doing with like the museum, right?
Mm.
But I'm curious like what you were trying to
I
accomplish.
mean, with the ASYNC Art, the original idea, I think about legacy a lot. Like I literally think about legacy every night before I go to bed. And
Yeah.
I was like, all right, how do I saw an opportunity like, all right, crypto art is emerging. I have a chance to be early on in this. I want to build some legacy up and like, like at least be a footnote in like some history book. And I was like, all right, hopefully the art history book. So I would love for like the idea of programmability and dynamic aspects to art just to be like ingrained in every artist. Not saying that they're all going to be incorporating those elements, but just the way that if you're classically art trained, you'll learn about anatomy, composition, depth, all that. You should still learn about interactivity. And like you might choose to ignore it in your piece if you want, but at least you know like how the great people in the past have used it. Because like we have had art installations. You can go to the MoMA and there'll be an interactive art installation. Oh, you can move this layer, whatever you want. But that'll be like one installation by like one big artist. We need to get to the point where every artist walking around is thinking about that because that'll elevate what art is. It'll elevate, art, connects people, expresses people, it changes the world. Like if we can add more tools to art like that, then like the world will continue to change there. So it all stemmed back to like, hey, let me just like try to build some legacy and make a dent here in a positive way.
Well, you certainly have. That's like undeniable. And like what I love about the company, of course, is like so much of your DNA and personal values are really built into it.
Mm.
Because you see, obviously, like the penchant for community, multiple ownership, like something new and novel, and like the experiment, and you continue to experiment and build with like music and the generative. But something that also really struck me, I don't know if it's still the case, but I think, your desire is really to just like make open source tools for people to kind of like use and create the artwork as they see fit.
Yeah, I mean, try and get as many people as possible to try this out and bring new ideas in. Not just trying to make a quick buck. I think the quick bucks are it's easier to make money in this space than building a whole platform and doing it that way. But yeah, just trying to do that, and it's tough. I think the space it's there's so much energy and momentum right now around mainstream stuff, and there's scams and there's rug pulls. So it is tough to like just like keep that core ideas going, and there are a lot of people in the space at least trying to do it. So it's luckily they're there.
How did it feel once like marketplace after marketplace started spinning up? I mean, there must be hundreds of marketplaces for NFTs at this point. But
There
nobody, I
are.
must say, does anybody do what you do?
I mean, so art blocks. I would say is generative art. It's slightly
Yep.
different because it's for programmers. I'd say it's similar. Snark Art, an experimental art platform, has like some occasional one-off things that like are kind of like async pieces. Like, oh, here's like a video split into like 10,000 pieces and stuff. No one's doing exactly what we're doing. I think because a lot of the companies, like, there's a lot of money made just in like just do an NFT, a minting platform, and like, and then get some really big names in there. That's like probably the easiest way to like make money
Yeah.
right now. So I think that's why people are going for the low hanging fruit. But we're going for like the next generation, because like once all these artists start learning the tools and they get familiar, artists are going to want to push the envelope, and they're going to be like, I want to do more than just like tokenize like my Instagram feed. And so like eventually they're going to be like, all right, I want to add interactive components. I want to be dynamic, because artists want to stand out. So that's where we're building. We're trying to like build for the next generation of NFTs. And just focus on the creation, the tooling, all of that stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of noise in the space, and it is challenging. I took a break from Twitter last year for a few months just because like just too noisy, just too
Smart
much
guy.
shilling and too much.
Smart guy. This is what keeps me up. Let's talk about one more thing,
Yeah,
like related to legacy, of course, because what I love about you is all your ideas eventually come into usable and practical tools for people. So let's talk about NFT Scribe.
yeah.
Why? And
Why?
what is
Okay,
it?
so
Yeah.
yeah, so Scribe is it's a simple contract. It's like 40 lines of code. The idea is that there's a list of messages on chain attached to every NFT, every contract and token ID. And the idea is you can add a message to that list only if you're the current owner of that NFT. So the idea is that like if an NFT comes in your possession, you can like write a message just like you would if you had like a used book. You could open the pages and see like previous owners and what they wrote. You could add your own and then pass it on, or once it sells or once you give it away. I think the idea was around, could a piece be more valuable if a famous person owned it? Like if there's like two identical editions of a piece, if Vitalik owns one and like, for a period of time, that one should be more valuable because that was actually in his wallet, in his hands. He interacted with that one. So that was, I think, the intent around it. And artists have used it really creatively. People have done like little puzzles in there. They've scribed puzzles and messages. People have done gifting. Like I have an NFT, I scribe a message, I gift it to you. It's kind of like a fun thing. For a while, I was scribing all my tokens with like, if the artist got like featured in a gallery or written up in an interview, I would just like append a message there because it was like the one canonical place where like anyone could look up and like, I don't follow artists on Twitter, but let me look on the chain to see if there's anything here. Now it got expensive. Gas fees got crazy expensive after, like a year after. So people were still scribing. Matt Cain was still scribing, but like other people, it just became pretty expensive.
Yeah, no, and I have to say we cribbed a lot of that kind of with our museum tech, but
Oh, okay, cool.
we allow for scribe messages on Polygon.
Nice. Okay, very cool.
So
Yeah, there you
like
go.
140 characters, anybody can write, or maybe it's 280. Anybody can write anything, and it kind of goes into like that Polygon
Neat.
commentary.
Ah,
Yeah, yeah.
I'll have to try that out. I do have some Polygon NFTs now.
Cool. Well, it's for NFTs on Ethereum, but the comment itself just runs on Polygon.
Oh,
So we end up eating the the nominal gas fee for everybody to like leave their comments on chain.
got it. That's cool.
Yeah.
All your activity on chain, like it is kind of your personality. Like someone could look like if you're interacting every day on the chain, that's like who you are. Like what art you bid on, what you collected, what parcels what you scribed, all that stuff.
And I said this to somebody earlier as well. Like there will be for sure AI machine learning that's going to go back and reconstruct all of those transactions and see kind of like who was following who and like and it
Yeah.
speaks to you were 100% like a tastemaker and an influencer in my collection. You have like an astoundingly beautiful collection. You have one piece in particular I'm incredibly envious of, and I should have bought it when it was available. But it's this artist cookies. Do you know that one?
Oh, the Max Cyrus.
Yeah,
That
it
was an
makes me
early
laugh
one.
every time. It makes me laugh
Me
every time.
too.
Do
I like
you? Where did you get your taste?
Uh, I'll just say I have bought a lot of NFTs. Like not all the pieces I got are good. Because I buy for different reasons. Sometimes I buy because I like it. Sometimes I don't even like the art, but I'm like I like the message, and this is just this needs to be supported. Um, I don't know. I like weird stuff. But I will say this: what's interesting is that once you have a digital display on your wall, this is not. This is I'm loaning it out my mural out to someone, but like it's a static one. But when you have a digital display, it affects the art that you want to buy and display.
Mm.
Because like I'll buy a lot of weird, flashy glitch stuff, but then the minute I got to like load my wallet up and like put it on my wall, I'm like, I don't want like a GIF. I want like a static texture of something that doesn't change or move.
I don't think either of us are buying to like go put it on a,
Oh, yeah. True.
I think we both like identify with this like whatever 2070 cyberpunk future where like it is going to be glitchy and bright and flashy. And so it's weird. There is like a conversation with the now and there is a conversation with the future. And there are a million different reasons, I think, why we collect and buy the things that we do.
Or sometimes I'll buy something just because someone deserves it. Like, okay, I missed out on this one, but like the Robness, the McDonald's job application one that he did when crypto crashed. I don't know if you remember that one, but it was like he was fake applying for McDonald's, like his
totally
right, and like his achievements were like, oh, I got banned from Super Rare. I won this award. It was just super funny, and I was like, all right, that sort of voice just needs to be supported at this moment. So yeah,
I have two if you want to trade.
Go for it.
No, I'll trade you for one of them if you want, or I'll just give you one. Yeah.
No, I'll trade you something. I'll look for something off. I'll look for a few options. I would love one.
You should have one for sure. I saw that he gave Token Angels the physical.
Yeah, it's a bright of my mind. I have a black cube. He did a funny one. It's just a black circle, but it's supposed to be a 3D rotating black sphere. And it is. You can't tell. But those in the spheres are really popular.
Yeah. Do you feel that spirit is lost? Do you feel that like perhaps like that playfulness, that fun, that hack everything, let's hack each other, let's be like very playful in the moment? I kind of feel like that is lost.
Yeah, I think people are still doing it, but I think it gets drowned out. I think, funny moments like that come and like, again, the space used to be so small, but like someone do something like that and like, oh, people will talk about it for like the next week. But now it's like you do it and then a few hours later, it's like, oh, here's some big crazy robot PFP thing that did $10 million in sales. And like people already move on to it. So I think people within the community know those moments, but yeah, I think you're right that for the large community as a whole, they don't even know. And the sad part, I don't even think some of these new people don't even care. They're here for the money. They're here for like the followers. I don't want to get jaded.
Too dark.
I'm a little bit dark, but I'm a little jaded.
I am too.
I don't know. I think there was that first and second generation. Like it was weird, and they liked the humor. They liked that stuff. They're still out there. I'll say all those people are still out there, but
everybody. It's just we need to find a way to like shift the conversation around that back to somewhere other than like an algorithm that I think is designed to make us like consume and buy.
Like Twitter and Instagram, the algorithms exactly are that. They're surfacing the content that gets clicks and stuff. It's like we need a social network that's like around, I don't know, proof of patronage or how long you've been on there, like, and maybe your comments get more weight because you've held this NFT for longer or something. Like someone needs to do a better social network for NFTs.
And it's hard because a million have tried, right?
I've
seen a million try.
Yeah.
So much of it is responsiveness to the data that we are being fed, and we feel in control of that graph, but we're really not. Do you have a favorite piece on ASYNC Art?
I have it really changes. Like I always say a favorite piece, and then like a piece will come out like a month later. I'm like, oh, this is my new favorite. I mean, there's all the classic pieces: The First Supper, The Tribe by Pac, A Lot of Money's Dictatorship, which is an autonomous piece. ASNYC's Choose the Man. Those are all the first generation pieces. Like I really liked them. I'm biased, but I do think people's best works tend to be on ASYNC.
I
Trevor
agree.
Jones and a lot of money, ETH Boy, right? It's the
Yeah.
ones that put a ton of effort in. But I'd say recently the blueprints are really, I'm really excited about the blueprints that are coming out because when you pull it, they're randomly generated. Like there's a little bit of surprise. Like you don't actually know what you're gonna get, which is
Yeah.
different than a regular piece, which like you buy it and you get it. Um, I'd say one of the blueprints that was really interesting recently, well, there are two. They're both pixely. One of them was Defiant Squid's Village, of unlimited potential. Super cute. All the villages look really nice, and they all have a little monument in the background. Mine had a horse, but sometimes the monument's like a little cat guy or portal or gate or something. That was fun. I did a little haiku thread where I was like, "Hey, do a haiku of your village," and a bunch of people were doing that.
Mm.
And then another one was this Our Lady of Non Fungibility. Super simple. It was like these relics, like a bone or like a spleen or a heart in like a case, but it's pixel, and it's just super cool. And it kind of reminds me of like old retro RPGs of like you get like an artifact. And anyway, just look it up and you'll see it. But it's very very cool.
Do you want to explain the concept to people? Kind of like the idea of one of one of one.
Yeah, so there's two types of art in async now. There's the first one, which is like the layer pieces. So imagine there's like I just use the same example all the time. Let's say there's like a Western landscape. On another platform, you would like paint a cowboy racing across the desert. That's a static image. You tokenize that. You do multi-edition. You do single edition, whatever you want. On async, you would say, you know what? I painted three versions of the night sky: day, night, lightning. I'm going to make all those three states be in one background layer. And now someone can actually buy and own the background layer, and they can determine which state is active as the background holder. And the cowboy, I painted 10 different versions of outfits in different states of his attire, and maybe some are like pristine and clean, some are like tattered and he's tired. And the owner of the cowboy can choose which state that the cowboy's right in. And so that's an example of like, you'd have multi-ownerships. You'd have someone become the background if they own it, someone become the cowboy. And that's like the basic one of one model for async. The blueprints, you build a piece exactly the same, but you flip it so that when people buy it, they're buying these static one of one randomly generated from all the possibility additions. So if there are three backgrounds and three cowboys and three different sun states, when you buy one, you're going to get one of the random additions that's possible. Now it's unique. There will be no other versions that are like it. And it's kind of like a way to like have like a quantum painting that's like, there might be 10,000 possibilities or 10 million possibilities. And when someone buys it, it collapses it down to like one possible instance. Those are cool because you buy into a community. They're usually offered at a lower price point. And it's kind of fun to be in a club with a bunch of other like-minded people. But those are the two distinct
And
differentiations.
and those are generated on Mint,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I got hopelessly addicted to Rutgers on that.
Oh, the portrait one he did, the 51
The
or 54
portrait
states.
one. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
so beautiful.
So Rector's pieces, like I always got to look at them twice because I don't like it's like my brain doesn't understand how the layering, how he's able to do it. Like his pieces look like they're like almost 3D sometimes. Like they'll have like an actual photograph and like a texture, like a painting, but that painting's actually like the bottommost layer. It's super weird. In his first supper character, same thing. It's like the character like holding the TNT, but like anyway, yeah. So Rutger's pretty amazing.
His work is off the charts. Yeah, and I agree with you. And generally, whenever like if anybody asks me where I think the value is left in the space, I think the value is generally on async, right? It's I think that. I think that. Yeah.
I think there's stuff. Yeah, I mean, I do think people put their best work into it.
Because there just has to be something more. Like it's like we are so done with JPEG to token. You know,
Yeah, I
like
know.
it's we cannot run this forever and ever because it's like
I know.
what is this? And it's been like it's just too low of a barrier of entry to call it art, especially when people are like not attaching intention or not attaching depth. You know, like make a piece and then go use Scribe, like sign something into it. Give like there needs to be more substance. And for me, I'm certainly tired. I'm certainly jaded, but I'm looking for that next evolution.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I hear you. It's I haven't been buying as many pieces in part because I'm busy, but also part because I'm a little fatigued. I'm like, all right, let me see let me wait for something big that really excites me to come out.
Yeah.
Hoping for this interoperability or utility, so we announced this partnership with Mona, where you have these like virtual metaverse spaces. Right now they're open to the public. So Xcopy launched his like grifter bar, and it's open to the public. But at some point it will be gated so that if you have a token within his PFP, you get access to it, and they'll start holding events in there and stuff. So that's just one example. But like I'd like to see like I get to my NFT and now I can actually use it for things, and like token gated is like a really simple example, but like just in general, I'd love to just start using my NFTs more because I have so many. And it's like I want to use them for
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Um,
Rather than just the ultimate utility cannot just be the profile picture.
yeah, that's like the first thing. Cool. But then
Yeah.
now it's like, what else can I do? Like, I mean, yeah, just like sticker. I mean, I don't know, stickers, maybe social clout. Like I post a lot. I'll post like on Instagram. I don't know, like just bring the NFTs in there because like those are maybe when I play games. I don't know.
We've recently been doing a lot of work with Mona as well.
Hmm.
I like that evolution. We're bringing kind of like this concept of rooms of the museum to be kind of like
Yeah.
designed and uploaded by other people's collections into this, trying to return it to like the community, getting curation out of our hands and into more hands of like collectors and artists. Um, so I do see the conversation beginning to kind of shift back like into different corners, different pockets, people
Yeah.
finding mutual common interests in different places. Um,
Yeah, I remember you recently launched the rooms
yeah,
concept. Okay, yeah. I mean, that's kind of how I envision the Museum of Crypto Art conceptually. Like, like the sort of like the Library of Borges or the Library of Babylon. I think it's like this
sure.
like infinite library where like every book that's ever existed is somewhere in that library, and like you can go find it. Or
Yep.
like even this conversation, like there's a book that has this exact conversation somewhere. It's kind of how I imagine the Museum of Crypto Art. Like this, like it's not one place. It's like this like endless library you could go explore.
I mean, that's kind of really just the idea. There's only so much that we can do, right? But then you begin to give, direction, power to people within it, and it becomes its own world unto itself. And that world becomes the idea of a museum. And if there are people curating different pockets of it, then Giselle can put up a show on photography, and people can go and they can go see like her work, or
Yeah.
whoever's work she chooses to showcase. Because frankly, like, how do we invert that like very hierarchical curation pyramid and really enable people to be like both, are all artist, collector, curator, because we have the tools to allow that, and there's like the right personalities to be empowered in those ways. So I think we were all trying to like escape the box of being just that one thing and that
Yeah.
hyperstatic life. It's like what you realized with the art. It doesn't just have to be the one thing. It can be many thing and dynamic and show different faces, different aspects of itself at many times, and it can be like owned and influenced and controlled by a small circle of people around it.
Yeah. It's stuff that's the space is so there's almost too many things going on that it's hard to like really deep dive on one. Because like I find
Yeah.
myself, I'll look at like one art piece and I'm like, oh man, if I had time, like I would just like build like a whole thing just this art piece and like in an experience and interactive. And then like I said, like already a week later or like a few days later, there's already another piece. I'm like, oh, I'm on the next thing. And like I think it's just that way for no one's wants to stay in one place and dig deep in and really explore something. They're like, oh, let's move on to the next one.
Man, super, super relevant. It's like for every one person that wants to dig in and go back and talk about history, and right there's 100 people that just want to move forward. They're just like producing, 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 and I don't know if that's just like a sign of the times, where and the sign of the means, because it's digital, that there is just like a pattern to produce and just leave it for somebody else to kind of deal with. Um,
Yeah.
I hope that's not the case, but I struggle with it too. Of like the more backwards we try to be at the museum, it seems the less and less people care.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's kind of like museums are struggling to get people to look at old stuff. And it's true in this metaverse too, right? Like, yeah, if you focus on like, hey, here's artwork from like 2018, 2019, the newer people coming in, they're like, I want to know about the new collections that's out. What's the
Yeah.
floor price? What's the maximum purchase per
Yeah.
transaction? I don't know. It might just be the current time we're in, though. I think still some cool stuff going on, and people come back. Some people take a break, they come back, they would come back and recharge.
Yeah. Any last words? Where to find you? Anything that you want to share?
So people can find me on Twitter /Conlan, Conlan. But Async Art's a better way to find all the general stuff because I post weird things sometimes. So Async Art, Twitter /Async Art, or the website async.art. And the one thing, I guess I've been saying this a lot, but I'll continue saying it. Like, I guess the thing I would love to share is that artists definitely try out all the platforms. Don't just find one and stick with it. NFTs are a medium in themselves. So you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't try out everything at least once. Just get a sense of what they all do. They all have pros and strengths and weaknesses. And platforms and entities and everyone in the space needs to try to work together more. Because otherwise we end up replicating the Web2 world where everyone's just trying to suck as much time and attention into like their little garden. And then at that point, why even have a blockchain if you're going to do that?
Wise words, man. I'll say what I got out is just like be weird, hack everything, and have some fun.
Yeah, have fun. There you go. I like that one.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for the time, Conlan. I'm Colborn Bell, Museum of Crypto Art, and thank you to DMINTI.
Breaking news.